Hello, everyone. I'm Martina Dudkiewicz, and this is BetaCast, YouTube podcast where we discuss innovation and collaboration everywhere. Because we truly believe that innovation can happen in every aspect of our life. This is the fourth episode of Social Impact Season created by BetaE in partnership with Impact Hub Lisbon. And today's guest is Hugo Menino Aguiar. Hugo, thank you for being here and accepting the invitation to this interview, and welcome to BetaCast.
Hey, thank you. It's really nice to be here, Martina. Thank you for the invite.
So before we go to the first question, let me introduce Hugo briefly. Entrepreneur, global shaper, and co-founder and CEO of Speak. Speak connects migrants and refugees with locals living in the same city through language and culture exchange. So, Hugo, can you tell me how it happened that you entered into social impact space? Was there any turning point in your life? And right now, what's the most exciting thing about this for you?
So, when I was like 14 years old, more or less, I started doing volunteering to different projects. So it was about animal liberation, but it was also about the environment. And I think I did that for the feeling of purpose. But if we remove the noise around this experience, I think this is a little bit selfish, because in the end, it's about myself, feeling okay with myself and the way I use my time. So since then, I was always looking forward for opportunities to have the feeling that I was being useful. So that's one. On the side, I was, at the same time, I did more or less the typical career of a Portuguese student. So I did my university. I'm a geek, so I did computer science engineering, my bachelor and master's. And at the same time, I was also doing projects related with social impact, or that word impact driven. And there was a moment in my career when I was already at Google and when I was already actually testing on how to connect migrants, refugees, and locals living in the same city. So working on the social inclusion of migrants and refugees, that I did one of those check-ins with myself and try to understand if what will increase my level of well-being and happiness. And I noticed that the variables changed, and that the variables that were influencing the levels of my well-being were more related with living a mission or the opportunity of trying to make it happen. So on that moment, I decided to leave Google and try to create Speak. So that was Speak was the project that helped me or triggered the move from my full-time job by then at Google to my full-time job with Speak on the social impact space. Yeah. What else? Related to Speak, the reason we created Speak was, where actually we also had that trigger was as an European youngster like you and many others, we were very privileged to study abroad or travel and so on. And when I was doing or having those experiences, I noticed that I struggled myself to create my support network, so to make friends. And sometimes I felt the language barrier. And if I was privileged because I was allowed to travel, I was traveled because I wanted to. I had a point of contact because when I was studying, I had someone from the university, or when I was working, I had someone in my company that could help. I always had a financial compensation because I was with scholarship or I had a salary, but still it was tough, my integration process somehow. Everyone else that crossed borders in search of better opportunities or because they need or they must to survive, they face exact same challenges, but with a higher intensity. So I wanted to help there. And that was the trigger of like, let's try to build something that can help on the integration process. Then the idea of Speak actually came also from the experience outside and in multicultural environments. You probably noticed by now as well that when you are in a group of people and you are from different places, sometimes human beings use as an icebreaker, like how do you say beer in your language, or how do you cheer in your country? What is the word that you say? In Portuguese, saúde, like in Polish, I think is not. So,
exactly.
or like, how do you greet people in your country? And people use these as an icebreaker strategy to actually connect with the other person. So the idea was, what if we can use the motivation or the interest that people have for the culture or the language of the other person as a strategy to connect people, and that was like the trigger. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing, and I need to tell you that I totally relate to this, and it's also, I think, great times to do this, because we're living in a world that is so multicultural in one place, especially, well, I know Speak is international, but kind of, you started here in Lisbon, but you can also feel, and I feel as well, how international our society here is. So amazing. But about Speak, we'll speak more soon. But before this, I would like to ask you about your two experiences. You have very interesting background, and I want to find out a little bit more about your Global Shaper title that you have, and that is related to World Economic Forum. Can you tell the story behind it? And I'm curious whether this moment had some influence on your future at that time. And I assume, of course, that you must be very proud of this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing community. So the Global Shapers is a community of young individuals that are younger than the 30 years old. That's why I'm alumni now, because I'm above that at the moment. But it's a community of young people that already proved that they could do something well, and that they are active in their communities and known in their communities for something in specific. But it can be anything. So we have artists, we have all Olympic sports people, we have social entrepreneurs, we have entrepreneurs, we have musicians. So it doesn't necessarily mean the vertical. Actually, I believe the most diversified is the hub of the Global Shapers, the better. And it's a community of those individuals that usually work on a city level. So they are organized in hubs with the goal of making or like basically allowing or enabling change somehow. So building projects that care about the different problems of the world, and it can be many. So that's basically it. It's a community of young people that has a certain that do checks in a certain set of values, willing to help solving the most pressing issues that we are facing. So that's basically it. How did it influence my life or my experience? Actually, it's not about the things you take, it's more about the things you give. And you take more if you give more, because like depending on the communities is always like this, but there are all like the global shapers. One cool thing about it is you have different hubs. So I know that many global shapers, when they travel, they usually meet with the global shapers on the other cities. So it's a really cool way to get to know the world through the eyes of people that live there, and usually they are amazing individuals. So it's super nice to get those people and be inspired. So that's one, is something that you can take. Of course, there are collaborations, so you can work with different global shapers. I'm more interested currently in the topic of refugees and the social inclusion of migrants and refugees. So I've been working with some shapers on how can we replicate Speak to other cities, for example. But there are some, the hubs also like implement projects that are very different. So some hubs are more about networking and discussing topics and sometimes lobby. But others are more like local projects, building local projects. Others are about identifying the project and supporting it. And I never pushed Speak to the table for the global shapers to support, because the way our hub works is a little bit different. But for me, it was an amazing opportunity to be inspired, help in some specific projects, and like give my contribution or my time to stuff that I believe it matters, and make amazing friends. So I have amazing friends from those experiences as well.
Well, that's great to hear it. And I wanted also to ask about Ashoka, because you're also a member of Ashoka community or organization. And how is this experience different from a Global Shaper one?
Yeah, that one, in terms of recognition or impact for Speak, was higher, just because the Ashoka was is one of the most well-known organizations in the world about social entrepreneurship. Like, and the Global Shapers is not focused on that. So it's not that we are comparing, it's just like, it's very different goals. The Ashoka was actually the first organization using the concept of social entrepreneurship. And they focus on the social entrepreneur. So it's only for social entrepreneurs with certain characteristics and in certain stages of their like developments. And they are very picky. So actually that gives us a stamp of credibility of like, this guy or this girl is doing something great, and we vouch for them, and actually we support for them. And it's something that it's for life. So once you are a Ashoka Fellow, you are a Ashoka Fellow forever. And so they need to protect their brand, right? So the way they select Ashoka Fellows is very complex, is very time consuming, and also they give a different type of support, and the support comes in three main areas. One is funding. So many times they support financial wise the Ashoka Fellow to remove the stress from the Ashoka Fellow and allowing him to focus on what is important instead of trying to monetize everything. And imagine, like, maybe for you here in Portugal, it's still understandable the difference that this makes, because like having money on there and not being pressured to actually take care of your financials is of course it's important everywhere. But imagine in countries like India or countries under development, that makes a total difference. It's the difference in having someone trying to solve a problem or not. Then the second way of support comes with training. So they have a bunch of trainings for you depending on what you are facing, like leadership, well-being, fundraising, communication, and so on. And then the third one is opening doors. So it's network. You as an individual or as an organization will struggle a lot to close key partnerships or get to the right people. And Ashoka can help with that. And so again, it depends a lot on the person, on the fellow in this case, to leverage the opportunity. So you will always have fellows that take a lot from the Ashoka experience and others that didn't. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the organization or the community that doesn't work. It's just that some fellows give more priority to leverage the potential or the opportunity, and others not really, because like priorities are different. We organize our priorities, and so they are different.
Yeah. But I guess like listening to those experiences, I mean, they match perfectly also with what you do. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And being in that close group, because I also studied this a little bit, and those are really like personas there, people that do great stuff. So I'm super proud that you're also in that group, and yeah, I'm just like aproveita, as we say in Portuguese. So let's speak about Speak. So for many years right now, you've been engaging in creating and developing Speak. Can you tell us more about the organization, about your goals, achievement, and also what makes Speak so special?
Yeah. So like I already said this, but I'll pitch it again.
Sure.
What's the idea? But we work under the umbrella of social inclusion of migrants and refugees. What we do is connecting newcomers and locals living in the same city, and we do that through language and culture exchange experiences. How does this work? We allow people, or we have a web platform, it's www.speak.social, that allows people to sign up to learn or to sign up to help others learning. And we call to the second option, be a buddy. So it's the buddies are the ones that lead language groups or facilitate the language group experience. Then people are allocated to a language group. So everyone is organized in language groups. The language groups are language specific. So for instance, we can have the Polish language group, or we can have the Portuguese group. And so, for example, in your case, you arrived to Lisbon, you got to know Speak somewhere, or in a flyer or media or ad or whatever. You go to our website and you are willing to practice your Portuguese. So you can sign up to Portuguese. But by the way, you see that you can also be the buddy of Polish. So you are allocated to do different groups. Maybe the Portuguese one is on Monday and the Polish one is on Wednesday. So on Monday, you are learning with other people Portuguese with two buddies in your group, and the experience is through games and dynamics. And the idea is that you make progress language learning wise, but as well on the creation of the relation with others. But we don't pitch that because it's part of the strategy. So we use your motivation to practice Portuguese as a strategy to get you together with other people. So with a methodology that increases the probability of making friends and those relationships of trust, support, loyalty, and so on. Okay, so our goal is that you have friends, because once you have friends, you have people that can tell you where to buy cheap and quality food, or can you help me rent a house? Like, can you help me translating this document? Do I need a sponsor to rent a house, or how can I become a Portuguese citizen? So once you have true friends that are diversified and know this stuff, you are in a place where, one, you are not in risk of social isolation anymore, and two, you have almost same access to opportunities as locals. Okay. So, and then on Wednesday, you are the Polish buddy, and it's so cool because now you can help others learn about Poland, learn Polish. You can play games, you can organize events and teach them on how to cook żurek, for example. You can live your culture there, and at the same time you will feel that your culture is valid, because maybe myself as Portuguese, I'll be there and I'll be like showing that I'm super interested in knowing more about your culture, about your story. So that's good for you as a migrant or as a newcomer, because you feel that your difference is valued. And plus, it's also a way to share your culture and leave your culture a little bit, so that you don't miss that much your country, for example, or culture. Yeah.
I feel that that you have it really thought through, like on all those levels, and that's really great opportunity. Yeah, for anybody that is visiting Lisbon. There are many of us, I would say. Yeah. I want to ask you also about your experience as a startup founder, because Speak is a really great example of a social enterprise. Your mission is very clear, your impact as well, because probably thousands of people are using your platform in different places every day. So can you tell a little bit more how it was to start this company, and more even focus whether doing business together with doing good makes any difference for a startup founder's path?
Yeah. So I'll share with you some of our achievements as well at Speak, so that people that listening to these know more or less where we.
Sure.
That for them to know, so that they can join, or that they can open
of course.
Yeah. Now we grow on a city level, so now we are on 26 cities in 12 different countries, and we have a few thousands people using Speak currently now, and I'll explain you later how we adapted to COVID, because we are on an offline model and we had to move to online. But with the online, actually anyone can join, because our language group is online. So we have people from Tijuana, Syria, and places where we are not, that now can use Speak, and that actually gave us an opportunity to have more refugees using Speak, and that was amazing. But yeah, that's more or less it in terms of numbers and how we are. If you are in a city that we are not yet, you can we have a program called Take Speak to Your City, where you can open your Speak city, and we support you in doing that. As a founder, no matter if it's an impact venture or a traditional one, or whatever you name it, whatever you want to call it, I think there are challenges that are more or less the same. So you still need to go through your marketing challenges, your business challenges, your monetization challenges, ability to mobilize people, fundraising. So all those challenges are still there. I think social entrepreneurs have an extra challenge, like I don't want, because I'm on that side, I don't want to say like, yeah, of course you are on that side, so it will say that it's more difficult. It's not about that. I just believe that we are more prone to criticism than traditional entrepreneurs, because we will always have, or we still have, unfortunately, that like, how come you work on the integration of refugees and migrants and you are trying to monetize? Isn't that like evil or so? There's one part that is about building your narrative to make people understand that there are people with ability to pay, and if we can monetize the ones with ability to pay, we actually leave room for the others projects that cannot monetize at all and truly need grants and the government support. So like I truly believe that if you can pay 50% of your structure costs with monetization, you have the duty to try to do it, because there are other projects that can. So that's one part that is more and more challenging. Then there's another one that is like more or less related, which is related with grant money, financial compensations, and talent. So it's still difficult to bring talent in to the social space, depending on the venture, of course, on the vertical. I think this is changing a lot, but there's one variable that influences these, and is how strongly funded is the impact venture, that because that allows to have higher compensations or competitive financial compensations. And it's still very difficult to be strongly funded as an impact venture. I think the space is organizing ventures with different characteristics. So now in Portugal, we know we have we have funds after impact ventures, but with specific characteristics that are okay to go after equity investment. But there are many others that don't, and those still have hybrid models that need to use grants or use another financial instruments that have like maximums or caps on the amount of money that you can give to an employee. And that, of course, puts you out of the ladder to go after the guys that want competitive salaries. So I think that's a second challenge. Then the third one is an emotion. It's like I think I lost you. Ah, you are there. We are back.
Sorry, I think it's on my side. Yes, we're back.
Okay. The third challenge, I think it's about like your well-being, because many times you are passionate about the social problem that you are trying to solve. That probably applies for any type of entrepreneur. But the problem here is that you talk with people that, or your customer or your target audience, many times are vulnerable people, have problems. So when you take personally, sometimes the struggles and the fail, like when you fail, you are almost feel that you are failing with everyone, and that this is like when you fail and you are not able to scale or help more people, like it's really frustrating. So emotional wise, it's super demanding, and like it requires an ability to navigate that for me personally was not easy. It's still not easy. So and I think that's the third big one. There are others, but I will finish here with 3.
Yeah, that's the most highlight. So really, like, also very in-depth, let's say, answer, and thank you for sharing this your experience. And you already mentioned about this initiative, Speak to Your City, right? So this is very interesting concept and actually growth strategy for you that is called social franchising. So can you tell us a bit more how it works for Speak and what are your experiences so far?
Yeah, so actually in the beginning, or the first approach for replication was using organic models. So we would recruit a project manager that will try to manage the experience or the project in one city. But we failed with this approach basically because this approach has different problems. Of course, there's also an advantage. Like the advantage is if you monetize, like the money's on your side because it's your organization. So if it works financial wise, it's better. But if it doesn't work, it's a huge cost of opportunity because you don't have, if you are not strongly funded, you cannot just recruit 7 or 8 project managers and put them in 7 or 8 different cities. You only have funding like maybe for 2 or 3, and that was our case. And so this means that if you fail on the recruitment of a person as a health problem or whatever, you basically wasted your money and the opportunity to prove a case. So we tried that and it didn't work well. And also we felt that was a bottleneck on scalability, because what we need in this world is Speak of similar projects that are very easy to replicate so that cities can adapt and help on the inclusion and that's it. So how could we make Speak as agile and easy to replicate? And the answer was, let's try through a program called Speak to Your City that basically follows franchising principles adapted to the social world. So, and like in 2019, we opened more than 20 cities testing this model, and it's working. So we are now in 26 or 27 cities, and like the big majority, like I think 23 are replications through the social franchise model. And it's amazing. Now, of course, we still have to work on how these organizations can monetize, because now we leave the money on the side of the founder, because these not only brings value to the city, and the founder is actually helping connecting people in the city, and helping creating or building that society to empower diversity and value diversity, but they're also creating their own full-time job. And so we have an employability aspect here that is super nice, but they need to survive financial wise. So we leave the revenues on the side of the founder. We have fees, of course, for the centralized team, so that Speak as a whole can also be sustainable. And of course, we need to support the founder and the organization to monetize in a nice way, so that on the long term they also break even. And that's the challenge of this year and the next one.
So when it comes to also those cities, is it more European cities, or are you also in some other continents?
Yeah, the truth is, Speak can be replicated anywhere. But there are laws that make it more difficult to be outside Europe, just because of the payment methods and many others. But we are trying, for example, in Dhaka, Bangladesh. They're speaking Dhaka in Bangladesh, and they're speaking Lagos in Nigeria. All others are in Europe, and it's easier. But it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. So,
yeah, hopefully it's a matter of time when you will be also able to really expand like those success stories. Definitely from there will gonna help out.
Yeah, true.
So can you tell me, because right now we are living in this super crazy world of pandemic, and actually from what we observe is that organizations really need to change, adapt, or even work on their core business to survive. And can you tell how it was for Speak? How did you manage this whole situation? And do you see this as an opportunity for growth for the community and organization?
So about I'll start with the end. I think it's really romantic. It's really romantic to say that, like, in problems there are also opportunities, and it's and like that people should focus on that, and it's amazing. But like the truth is, like when you are leading an organization and you are struggling, you do your best to survive anyway. Like we don't need that bullshit about like the huge opportunity because it is what it is. So of course there are opportunities, and I can be very rational about that. Like good opportunity to get talent because they just lost their jobs, like amazing opportunity, but super sad. Like to push people for the online, amazing opportunity, because people were like saying no so many times, and now like everyone had to be online. So now everyone is a little bit more tech savvy. We were able to prove in many organizations that we can work remote, that we don't need to have as many meetings. So that was all good opportunities. And yeah, we had to change because it's an offline model. So we try to connect people living in the same city offline, and we really push for the offline, because like we noticed that the online is actually creating or not helping at all the way we connect with other people, the way we nurture relationships and create those meaningful relationships. So our value proposition is to connect people in the offline world. But in the end of March, all our cities were closed in lockdown. The ones we had, we started in Italy, then there, and in the end they were all closed. So we had no other option than revamping the methodology. So we changed the methodology, and it's tough because we have a methodology for the offline. It's very different to have a game and a dynamic on the online world. So we changed the methodology, we changed the format, we changed the number of people allowed per group, we changed the number of movies per group, we changed the intensity, we changed all that stuff, we changed the materials and the games, and we launched the online. So we moved for the online groups. We also changed the way people get in, so to a pay what you want model. And so before we had symbolic fee to join a language group, and currently we are on a pay what you want model. Probably until the end of September we will be on that model. So we basically compromised revenue, obviously, and but at the same time, yeah, we learn new things because we never had so many people using Speak as we have now. We never had so many refugees using Speak as we have now. We were able to help refugees have Speak have refugees using Speak in countries and places that we never thought about. In Spain, refugees lost their professors, and Speak is not a language school. And the organizations that were one of the biggest organizations in Spain responsible for the integration of refugees had no other option than using Speak for the language learning. So it was amazing. We had like many refugees in Spain, and we still have using Speak. We have like a LGBT community of refugees in Tijuana using Speak. So like it's amazing. Then we also did an analysis, and we actually noticed that the impact or the transformation or like the difference was actually higher in this model than the other one. Of course, it might be influenced because people were alone at home or isolated, so the sense of being connected was even more important. Yeah. There were no distractions, so people could use Speak way more. But the truth is, everything was better except for the revenue. So yeah, we learned and we proved some points, and that will change Speak. For sure, in some ways. We still believe in the offline, we still believe in connecting people in the same city, but we need to understand that we can use the online to complement the experience somehow, and we are probably going to do that.
Yeah, but I really hope that, well, I believe nothing happens for like, everything happens for a reason. Maybe that way will be easier. So I really do believe that this time will also open you many, many doors that who knows how it's going to be in the future, right?
Yeah,
they're
way more well known now. Like organizations, I'm pretty like I have the strong feeling that when you help a certain amount of people in a very effective and efficient way, even if you can't monetize, money will show up.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the case. Like we are doing a great job, and people are seeing that we are doing a great job.
So. Yeah, that's that's really, really amazing to hear, and I encourage everybody that is listening to this right now to really check it out and see how you can also contribute to build the whole movement. We're going to the end, and I have just two last questions. Right now, I would like to tell us a little bit more about the cooperation with the Portuguese government, because that's very, I think, important project to talk about. First of all, what you did together, and also that you did together. What are the implications of the project? So if you can tell us more briefly, that would be great.
Yeah, and I can complement the question earlier on about the differences between a social entrepreneur and a traditional entrepreneur, because it's related to these. Uh, I don't know if this applies to all, but at least for me, um, I'm not so much interested in capturing value, like capturing value and holding it on my side. So I'm more interested in creating value. So I'm not worried if people take the Speak methodology and adapt it, give other name, and help more people. Like that's a success for me, and that's a big difference. And for me, and I think for many people in this globe working in projects like these, one of the main or the better things that can happen is to have a government that sees like, guys, these guys are doing this better than we are doing, so let's just incorporate this solution and use it. And that's kind of what happened. So the Portuguese government saw that Speak could complement the strategy of integrating refugees. So they used for a few years Speak as a strategy to give access to refugees that didn't have other opportunity to learn languages. So they can use Speak. So actually Speak is the mainstream solution for integrating refugees in Portugal through language. Of course, the government has other solutions like Português para Todos, now actually is going through rebranding and a new structure. And yeah, so that was amazing. The other things that we are actually doing is like, for example, Portugal signed up and is ready to receive 500 young refugees. In Portuguese, it's the refugiados não acompanhados. And we already received the first 25, and actually the government or Portugal is using Speak to help on the integration process of those. So we are working with those 25, and we'll probably be ready to work with the next 475 that are on the list to come. And then as a third vertical that we are working on, it's about Speak was not very focused on the language progress. So, but now we actually are building leveling. So we are building leveling without compromising the methodology, but allowing people to move from point A to point C in terms of level and language acquisition. And so the government will be able to use Speak in a different way for the language part as well. Because now, of course, it uses Speak for the language, but they know that we are very informal. We don't actually measure or assess level. And they use Speak because of everything else that happens, the support network and the integration process. So, but once we prove that we can do this very well, the progression language-wise, it will bring us more opportunities to leverage the partnerships with government.
Sure. And can you tell, like, from your experience, do you think we should push for more collaboration between social enterprises and government? Do you see that it has really influence on the society?
Yeah, like you can fight this as much as you can, but there's no, like, the truth is the government has ability to scale your organization, and if you have a green light, you have the opportunity to serve a huge number of people or the number of people that require a specific service. So yeah, definitely. I wish to have a solution that was as efficient, as effective, that was a no-brainer for government to see, like, instead of using this just here and there, let's just deploy it. Let's just like use it, and because it's cheaper and it's better. And yeah, definitely, because otherwise you are competing with your government in a way.
Yes.
You can, and it's always a very difficult competition, because the government doesn't need to monetize, doesn't need to do fundraising. They already have their budget that's approved once a year and discussed along the year. But so it's if you are working with something that can complement or the work of course this applies for this project in specific in Portugal, because there are many governments that don't prioritize certain social problems, but the integration of migrants and refugees is actually one of the best things that the government is doing, and the Portuguese government is well known in Europe due to that. So in our case, we better do a great job complementing what the government is doing. Otherwise, we are not doing here nothing, and we should be somewhere else. And but we always had this in mind. I remember, even before starting Speak, one of the first conversations was with the High Commissioner, saying like, I have the idea of doing these. I really want to understand like, if this makes sense, if you see value here, if it does complement the work we are doing or not. And we still have these conversations today to make sure that we are adding value.
Yeah, true. So I do really hope that your example will be example for other organizations to really fight for those cooperations and for other governments to open up, because this collaboration can only take you further and stop, just fighting and doubling each other, when you can really join forces and as you said, have really influence. And I really hope for the rest of the group to come to you and take advantage from Speak and have kind of safe landing in Portugal. So the last question to finish our great conversation is, what innovation means to you?
That's an interesting one, but I'll give you probably a short answer. I'm way more on the execution side than on the innovation side, because I think innovation is proved through your ability to build a solution, your ability to like think about a solution, identify the assumptions that you have for your solution, test those assumptions, understand if the assumption was right or wrong, and iterate. For me, this is innovation, and it's the ability of doing this. And you have the better you are on doing these, the better you will, the high probability you have for succeeding, and as a consequence to innovate and create and add value. That's my point, or my stake on this one.
Okay, Hugo, thank you very much for everything that was said here, for every experience that you shared with us. I hope whoever watched this will really take out. In the description below this video, you will have all the links, also contact to Hugo if you would like to talk more. Thank you very much for being here, and one more time, and for anybody who watched us, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.